But today, I'm the greatest of all time. Thank you.
Never stop, I'll get it if I want it. Gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top.
Yo, no, I ain't the type to give up. If I do something, man, I do it till I get what I want. I turn a business out of nothing into something I love. I got a poker face, but honestly, I'm not one to bluff. I flip a switch, never miss, man, I always stay up. Don't let them see you always have a plan to stay tough. This life ahead of you ain't easy, it was built to be rough. But that's what makes a personality, is tragedy, bruh. So keep your head on your shoulders. Now we ain't out here moving rocks, we out here moving boulders. Now we ain't getting posterized, we out here making posters. And we ain't got nothing to hide, we move forward like soldiers. You better wake up for the pay stub, or you'll pay up. Don't make love to the game, bruh, fuck the game up. Change up, rearrange stuff to your greatness. Same us for the way up, play the game, bruh.
Never stop, I'll get it if I want it. Gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top, yeah.
You know I'm always honest, there ain't no way I'm ever stopping.
I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top,
I'm always flirting with pain, she like to hurt me and maim. I'm always working to change, but she's still lurking the same. I keep on building a dynasty while the haters be trying me, but they hate from inside.
All right, what is up, everyone? Welcome to a special edition of Unscripted here on the Elite Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as on Northeast Streaming Sports' Roku channel. Normally, this is the Mondays with Matt time slot, but we got a surprise today, Jay McLovin. It's me and you, brother. We're doing our NBA 2020 Top 10 Redraft, looking at the players who were selected in this draft, and we're going to do some moving around, some mixing and matching, seeing which teams are going to pick which players. And as always, we're going to go through the top 10, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to discuss it. We're going to dissect it. We are going to have a great time. But before we get into it, my co-host helping me out, as I just mentioned, Jay McLovin. Jay, say what's up to the people.
Hey, how is everybody doing? Is Dan Campbell really the truth? That's the question I'm asking. I know this is an NBA show, but is Dan Campbell really the truth? I don't know.
I don't know.
Another time, I guess.
That's another video for another day. That's good. Guys, if you enjoy this episode here today, be sure to give us a follow on our social media platforms, as you can see on the screen, on Facebook, X, TikTok, YouTube, and on Twitch. Also, we are on LinkedIn. Now, if you want to connect with us on a professional level, if you want to help out with the network, go over there and shoot us a message. We are over there putting in some good work. But, Jay, let's get into it, my brother. 2021 NBA Top 10 Redraft. And this was a draft, Jay. This indeed was a draft. We've been going through last few NBA redrafts. We've had some guys stay in the top 10. Some guys fall far, far from grace. But let's go ahead and get into this one, man. So, as we know, the 2021 NBA top selection was none other than the Detroit Pistons, going with Cade Cunningham. And, Jay, it's clear to see that the Pistons have not really had a very good run with Cade Cunningham since his tenure. On pace to be the worst team in the league for a minute there, and they could still be the worst team ever in terms of win-loss percentage. So would you keep Cade Cunningham at number one? It's kind of interesting because this is a very young draft, and obviously we're going to do 2022, which is even younger, but there's not a whole lot of guys, Jay, you can see on here. I don't believe any all-star selections have been in this first-round pick. So it's going to be interesting to see what our thought process is. But would you keep Cade Cunningham as the top pick in this draft?
No. For Detroit, I don't think that I would keep Cade there. In actuality, I like that young kid that is over there with Toronto right now, and Scotty Barnes. I think Scotty Barnes would have been the guy that I would have probably felt more comfortable building around versus Cade Cunningham. I mean, we are talking about Rookie of the Year here, Logan. He did get Rookie of the Year, number one. Number two, if you look at the way he's playing this season, he's playing like a full-fledged all-star already, and he's only been in the league for a short period of time, and he's already just about I think he's on the cusp of getting into that superstar level of play. You know, the guy's got a 7'3" wingspan. He plays the 4 position, but Logan, 7'3" wingspan is nothing to play around. I mean, we're almost getting the Wembanyama type wingspan here. The guy is, he's put up solid numbers. 20 points a game, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. He's averaging about 2 3-pointers a game, and a little over 1.5 steals and 1.3 blocks. I mean, solid numbers from a guy who hasn't been in the league all that long. And like I said, Logan, I think this is what Detroit really needed and still needs at this point to build around. Another thing is, I think his defense. I talked about his offense numbers, a little bit about his defense numbers, but I think he's starting to really settle in on that defensive side of things, and I think that's going to be the part of the game next. I think he's going to start to develop and really become that two-way player. Again, and another thing I like about him is he's a bona fide point forward. I mean, this is a guy that is versatile. You can put him in other spots, right? So for those reasons, I definitely like Cade Cunningham here. And I think he's a guy that can space the floor and make it easier for those guards.
Yeah, I obviously I think Cade Cunningham is going to be a top 10 pick in both of our redrafts just because he is a solid player. But I don't know if I would have him as the number 1 overall selection. Jay, I'm going to have to agree with you. I think out of all the players you see here in the first round, the one who obviously is won Rookie of the Year is the closest I would say to being an all-star, and has had honestly, as you said, a really good career so far. Averages 16.5 throughout his career, 7.5 rebounds, give or take, on an efficient 47% shooting. And he's only getting better. I mean, he's had a really good season this year on a really kind of rough Raptors team who is just in a state of purgatory. You don't know what they're going to be up to. But no, I definitely think that, Scottie Barnes is the top pick going back at it. But like I said, this is a very tough draft to go back and look back on just because a lot of these guys still haven't fully broken out yet, but I think that Scottie Barnes is the top player when you look back at this 2021 number 1 overall pick. Let's go to number 2, Jay. Your team, the Houston Rockets, y'all went with Jalen Green. Now, as you know, as I just said, you are a Rockets fan. So how do you feel that Jalen Green has fit into your system, and would you have taken anyone else on this list over him if you had a redo?
Yeah, if I had to do the redo here, I'm not checking Jalen Green. I think he has still kind of struggled to find his way in this league. I mean, he's got nights where he shows brilliance and scoring and things like that. Then he's got other nights where he just looks completely discombobulated. Sometimes I think he tries to take a shot when he really should be giving a pass to another player. So no, I'm not taking Jalen Green here. I think that the Rockets did get the right play in the draft, though. At this point, I'm taking Seguin, the guy that they have currently, right?
Yeah.
I'm taking Asperon Seguin. That's who I'm taking at number 2. To be honest with you, the guy, if he reminds me a lot of, he kind of looks like he's somewhere in between a Sabonis and Joker. Kind of player. I would say his max, when he gets to his max performance level, I think he'll be 80 to 85% of where Joker is now. That's where I think his ceiling is. The guy, he makes it easier on the guards. He can space. He's got a great 3-point. He's got a great, that Pelican-looking weird shot that he does a few feet away from the rim. And again, 19 points, 5 assists a game. And what he can do away from the rim versus the rim defense, I think he's starting to kind of really come into his own there and starting to be a better rim protector. But at that point, I think this is where I take Seguin.
Yeah, I think that dude's a solid player. And I mean, obviously we have him in our intro and whatnot. And I think he has been a guy who, if you look on the board here, in the top 20, or excuse me, in the top 10, I mean, he was picked by the Thunder at 16. And not a lot of people remember that. And my God, Jake, could you imagine if he was still on the Thunder, who are, the current number 1 team in the league, in the West? I mean, that would be just dominance with as much as he's broken out. I don't think I would put Jalen Green at number 2. I think he still has a good upside, right? But I don't know if I want him as the number 2 overall selection at this moment. I think for me, what I would do is I would move Josh Giddey up to number 2 in favor of where he was at 6 with Oklahoma City. I think he's a solid player, Jay. I mean, on the court, I think that he's got a lot of really good skill sets. So I would move Josh Giddey up to number 2 out there in Houston. That way you guys could still fill that role in that guard position. And I think he'd be a nice piece. As you said, you still got Sengun, so you did great.
Right.
So
right.
You're still looking good. All right, brother, let's move on to number 3, Evan Mobley, going to the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'll go ahead and just start this one off. I would keep him in Cleveland. I would keep him as my number 3 pick. He has done wonders out there whenever he's healthy, whenever he's on the court, whenever he's putting in work. And I think he's been a really good fit. And, I mean, Jay, he seems like he's kind of poised, if all goes well, to have a really good breakout season for Cleveland if they can get things just kind of consistent out there, with Donovan Mitchell and company. What's your thoughts?
No, absolutely. This is exactly where I have Evan Mobley. He's staying in Cleveland. The guy is doing well. He doesn't have spectacular offensive numbers, right? 16, 8.9 rebounds, around 2 assists. But it's a defensive side where I think it's really where Evan Mobley is making his bread and butter right now. And I do think eventually that offensive game is going to catch up even a little bit better and match that defensive side. But right now he's 98th percentile defensively, plus or minus this season, which is the biggest strength in driving while, he's in the top 3. So it's that defensive measure, which is where he shines the most. And I do think that the offense will eventually catch up. But because he is so good defensive, that's why I still keep him at number 3, especially for Cleveland and what that team needs.
Yeah, I mean, he could be a guy, Jay, who we could be talking about with Rudy Gobert potentially as someone who's like always in, those defensive player of the year settings and conversations. With just how good he is. And I think that definitely Cleveland got a really good player here. And I think that they have a good spot. Picking him at number 3 overall, my friend. All right, 4 overall. Originally Scotty Barnes, but he has left the board for us. So, Jay, who would you put in his spot then at number 4, helping out the Toronto Raptors?
Yeah, I really like Franz Wagner.
Okay.
Originally he was picked 8th, but I think this is kind of where he goes. Again, pretty decent numbers for the 22-year-old. I think he has really good defensive skills. I think he was logging around 2, 3, or the 4 position in terms of where he can play. I like the versatile of the shooting guard or either one of those forward spots, which, in this game, and even in small ball, if you want to go small ball, I think you could put him at the 5. So what I think he could give Toronto is one of the biggest things is the versatility. But the 3-point percentage for him is down, so I don't know that he's going to give you that big 3-point shot. But with his 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists, I think he's still playing pretty damn solid somewhere in that neighborhood. So I think I would definitely go with Franz Wagner at that point.
Okay, that's good selection. For me, if I'm Toronto, Jay, I'm gonna kind of steal from your cookie jar. I'm going to have them go with Sengun. Okay. I think that, Toronto's an interesting spot right now. You know what I mean? They've got a super young team, and they just don't really have, outside of Scotty Barnes, I should say, they don't really have much of a team around him. I think Sengun is a guy who, Jay, would you say he is the face of the Rockets right now?
Yeah, no, he's absolutely unequivocally the face of the Rockets.
Yeah. That's someone who, obviously, Toronto's had a really good history for the most part with big guys, big centers, power forwards, etc. And I think Sengun is a guy who he's just going to work, Jay. That's how he is. He's going to put in some work. And so I think if obviously in favor of, since we already moved Scotty Barnes, I think that he would have been a good fit in Toronto. In these kind of dark times that they're in. Let's move on over, man. Number 5, halfway through it, Jalen Suggs heading to the Orlando Magic. Who would you replace him with, or would you keep him at the number 5 spot?
No, this is where I think AR-15 comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the play of this AR of Austin Reeves. This is the guy who, by all means, has to share minutes with the likes of LeBron, D'Angelo Russell's when he was, last year when he was getting all those minutes, and then also Anthony Davis amongst the three. Right, there's other obviously Hachimura and there's other guys that are trying to compete. Yeah. But this is the guy that's giving you 15 points, almost 5 assists and almost 2 3-pointers a game, and shooting around 44% from the field or from the 3-point line. So, this is the kind of guy that you could either make, your number 2 or number 3 guy on your starting lineup in terms of who's shooting the rock. Or you could have him as your 6th man coming up off the bench and would give you extremely strong play to help spark that second unit. That's why I like Austin Reeves. You can make him either one of those 2 spots. He's going to give you the same kind of production. And with that kind of versatility, it makes it a lot easier on your coach to find that right rotation and not have to worry about, well, if I put him on the bench, is he going to be able to spark us when we need a spark? And that's exactly what I think AR-15 does. And that's why I like him going to the Orlando Magic.
Okay, so I do have him not going to Orlando, Jay. I have him coming up really soon. But for my 5 overall pick, I'm going to go with Cade Cunningham. Only reason I think that he's still got some good potential, right? He has dealt with some injuries this past year. But if you look at his offensive numbers, defensive, that's another story. We'll kind of glance over that. For the offense, man, I mean, he's averaging 22.8 points this season, 7.4 assists. I mean, that's top 25 for both of those stats. So I think that with the right system in play, he could do some work out there in Orlando. And I mean, Orlando's kind of been a surprising team, just with how well they've played. And Jalen Suggs, I mean, he's not been, I don't think he's been awful, but he has definitely not lived up to that top 5 overall selection. So I would swap Cade Cunningham, dropping from number 1 to number 5 in my selection. And Jay, you just mentioned him, number 6 overall with AR-15, Austin Reeves. I would have him going to the Oklahoma City Thunder, since I had Josh Giddey going to the Houston Rockets. So I would have AR-15, a guy who went undrafted, Jay. A lot of people forget that. Who went undrafted is just, he's that kind of that spark plug. You throw him in there whenever you need some energy, whenever you need some good ball handling. So a guy who's not going to turn the ball over, who's going to go out there, get those charges, get those steals, you know what I mean? And I think that would really be, solid out there in OKC, with Gilgeous-Alexander and company, especially with how well they've done. I mean, it's hard to, obviously I think Giddey's done great, but since I already had him, I would definitely put Austin Reeves in there to kind of fill that spot there at the guard position. Who would you have as your number 6 overall selection in the 2021 NBA draft?
Yeah, I think Oklahoma City Thunder, they have a lot of already kind of pretty good players over there already. And with Shea Alexander and Chet Holmgren and company. And I think this is actually where I have Cade Cunningham going, is over there to that unit. Okay. He's got good numbers from last season, not too bad, 22, 7 assists and so forth. So, but the only downside to this guy, this is one of the parts of his game that I want him to work on, is that field goal shooting percentage from the field. He's still kind of down there. I think he's around like number 625th in the league in that percentile. So he needs to work on that. He's been giving a lot of possessions away sometimes due to that fact. So that is the one game I need him to do a little bit better of, is just improving his field goal percentage. But I think he's good. He's only 22 years old, so I still give him time to develop and continue to develop. So for that reason, but I do think he'll fit in nicely over there with Oklahoma City and Chet Holmgren and Shea Alexander. Yeah,
I mean, definitely a team who – that's the thing, Jay. We've always – since we've done the show, we've always kind of joked, about Oklahoma City stockpiling picks. I mean, they've got how many first-round picks from now until like 2035? It's crazy. But, Jay, the scary part, though, is that it's working. It is working, and they have a lot of, not just where their team is going to select, they have a lot of pick swaps, which either you can keep and use them if you want it. And the thing that I think that Oklahoma City, Jay, is going to start doing, they're going to start making some trades with that, some wheeling and dealing. And that's where you can get some good bench pieces. That's where you can get some good, backups. That's how you get those guys. Because, let's face it, Oklahoma City is not really a hotbed for free agents. But, Jay, you can trade them. And it's hard for teams to say no with all those draft capita. So, I think OKC is in a tremendous spot right now. I'm excited to see where they're going to go. A team who is not in a great spot right now is the team we're talking about next, the number 7 overall pick, the Golden State Warriors. They went with Jonathan Kuminga, a guy who is still on the team, but there have been rumors, I'm not sure if it's going to flesh out or not, but that he's not super happy out there in Golden State. So, Jay, if you had to do a redo, would you keep Kuminga as your number 7 pick?
No. This is actually where I have Josh Giddey going.
Ooh,
and
okay.
The one thing I like about Josh Giddey, which is still kind of a struggle for Golden State, even up to this point, because they brought in aging star Chris Paul, who we all know can't last more than half the season before he's done and out on injured reserve, right? This is the one spot where I really think Josh Giddey could explode on. I know and the guy's 6'8", but he could play the point, Logan. If he had to, he could play the point. And the one thing, when you got shooters around you like Seth Curry, Klay Thompson, and so forth, you need a guy that can distribute the ball to him. And he's already averaging 6 assists a game. And that's why I think he's not the greatest of shooters, right? That's a part of a game where I think Josh Giddey still needs to improve upon. But the dude knows how to dish out the rock and put people in position. And that's exactly what Golden State needs right now that they're struggling with. And they're struggling when you're bringing in an aging superstar. And I don't know if you call him a superstar anymore, and Chris Paul.
Yeah. For me, I think number 7 overall, this is where I would have Jalen Green going. Just because, man, Golden State, they need, like you said, I like your pick there, but I think they still need, Jalen Green, he's 22? He's still super young. And if he was under that wing of, let's just say they didn't get Chris Paul, under Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, all them, he could be, he could, I think, fit in nicely there with Golden State. And Jay's, he's not afraid to let it fly. He is not afraid to shoot the ball, is Jalen Green. So I would have him going number 7 overall to Golden State. Number 8 overall, Franz Wagner went to the Orlando Magic. And JR, you had him going earlier in your draft. So who would you have in favor in this number 8 spot?
I swear, it's almost like I'm picking one behind you. Yeah, it's like I'm almost picking up one behind you. Yeah, no, I really like Jalen Green here. I think this is kind of where his stock kind of falls in. Again, like I said, this is a guy, who's still kind of trying to find himself. Boncaro and company out there, Franz and company out there. I think this is where he can really find himself on that coaching staff. He's, I think, 43 among players taking the 2021 draft and wins. But I think he's streaky, Logan. He's just streaky, and that's why I don't think he fits up in that top 6 even really. But I don't think he steps. But just because he's so talented, I don't think you can slide him out of the top 10 either. I think he's still a top 10 talent, but I think he's a lower end top 10 talent at this point right now.
No, that's fair. For me, I would keep Franz Wagner at number 8. I think he's done great numbers out there. I think he's kind of underrated only because he is in Orlando. We know they don't get a whole lot of love from the big media companies, but I think that Wagner's been solid, bro. So I'll keep him at number 8 in my pick. All right, number 9, Jay, Davion Mitchell, Donovan's little brother, went to the Sacramento Kings, who have been lighting the beam, as we know, and have had kind of a resurgence in recent years. But as for Davion Mitchell, I don't know if we should put him at number 9. What's your thoughts?
No, at number 9, that's where I actually have Trey Murphy the third over there. I like him. He's a tall guy. He's over there with the Pelicans, where where I think he's done quite well. He's averaging, I think he's like what? I think he's 23 if I'm not mistaken. I believe he's 23, but he's a 3-and-D guy. So I think he gives you good defense. He can give you good 3-point shooting. And in all honesty, I think that's what I think the Kings are at number 9, and that's what they need. The Kings need defense right now. They have Sabonis over there, and they have Fox over there and company. But I think they need that one guy like paid like the Stojakovic, like the Peja. They need another Peja like they had back in the day, and I think this is kind of where Trey Murphy would fit in. Is be like a trade, it'd be like your next level of Stojakovic Stojakovic or Turk, maybe even like a Turkoglu top player.
I got you, brother. Yeah, for me, number 9 overall, not Davion Mitchell. If I would think this is where I would slide Jonathan Kuminga, just because I like his upside. I think he's shown flashes, Jay, of kind of being a guy out there in Golden State. So I would have him slide down 2 slots from the original draft, going to Sacramento, keeping it in California, but going to a different arena. All right, and Jay, 10th overall, the top 10 rounds out here. The New Orleans Pelicans selected Zaire Williams. Jay, would you have him as your number 10, or would you swap him out for someone?
Yeah, I think at that spot, I think this is where I'd probably put Jalen Suggs, honestly. I think he's a great perimeter defender, and I don't know the Pelicans have a lot of good perimeter defenders. Obviously, what's his name has not been playing. Thank you. Zion has not been playing. He doesn't have he's not the highest scorer. He's only averaging like around 12 points a game. But he can shoot the 3 ball at 37%. So he can defend it. He can shoot it. He's giving around 4.4 assists. So I think he's got potential there, Logan. He's top 5 in steals per game. So I think the defensive side of Suggs and hopefully eventually the emergence side will complement. But I think on that, the one thing the Pelicans need is to be tougher defensively. And I think this is where Jalen Suggs helps.
Okay, so for me, to round out the top 10, before we end the video here in a minute, I would also go with Jalen Johnson. I would switch him out. Reason I like Johnson, he's a good two-way player. He's not the greatest defender, Jay, but he's not the Trae Young or Murray's of the world in Atlanta. He gets most of the assignments, especially for a young guy. He hasn't played a whole lot. He's played a lot more this season as opposed to the last 2 seasons just because of getting on the court. But I think that he's got a good upside, and I think he'd be a good fit out there in New Orleans helping out, Brandon Ingram and Zion and the crew, getting them situated in the rest of the NBA. I think they could definitely help out in the Western Conference. Just doing a quick glance over here, rest of the first round since we got a little bit of time left. For me, Jay, a guy who just missed out on my top 10 was Cam Thomas out there in Brooklyn. That dude is just an absolute scoring machine, but it's unfortunate, Jay. He kind of reminds me of James Harden in the fact that, he can score the ball, but he is streaky. And I would say James Harden in recent years, he's streaky because you knew how good James was. He could either get 40 for 10 nights in a row, and then once he got a little bit older, then it would be 40, then 10, then 7, and so on and so forth. And that's kind of how Cam Thomas has been. And they don't play a lick of defense. So that's why he just missed my top 10. Anyone else on the board you see that just missed out?
Yeah, my 2 were the two that I had at the 11 and 12 spot were guys that you put in the top 10, and I had them just barely missing the top 10. I had Jalen Johnson like you had it at number 11, and then I had Kuminga wrapping it out at 12. So, I think me and you are kind of comparable, but I think we just had a couple of guys in there. I think like I had Murphy in there, and I think you had Jalen Johnson instead. Yep. So, but we were close, man. The only one I think that truly deserved where he was drafted, and I know you agree on that, was Evan Mobley at 3.
No, that's a great point, Jay, and I think that's a great way for us to round out the video. As always, Jay McLovin, appreciate you coming on, talking some sports with me. Once again, guys, this has been our 2021 NBA Top 10 Redraft. Be sure to give us a like, follow, share, and subscribe. So don't miss a single episode. Check us out over here on social media, as well as on LinkedIn. Guys, enjoy your weekend. Go and take some time, enjoy some fun, and we'll see you guys again on another live episode. We'll see you soon.